What we always tell people is it can work. It can work. It doesn't have, I know blended families get a bad rep of being toxic, or people are just like, that's just not going to work. You have a higher divorce rate. You hear all the negative. And so, one of the things we really, really pride ourselves on is it can work. And then these kids can grow up with just double the love from both sides of the families that they're dealing with.
Everybody looks at statistics and they say, oh gosh, it's going to be so hard. The one that we love, one of our dear friends, Pastor Jimmy Evans, says, if you do marriage God's way, you have a 100% chance of success.
Mhm.
This is not, you're not going to fail if you do it this way. And I think that people look at this and go,
Your blended family has a 100% chance of success when you do it God's way. We're Blended Kingdom Families, and we want to provide biblical resources to heal and restore families with a message of hope for the next generation.
hey guys, welcome to the BKF podcast. We are so excited that you're here with us today. We have an amazing guest with us. If this is your first time listening to the podcast, please take an opportunity, like, share, comment, leave us a review, or give us feedback. We love hearing from you. And today we're going to have a very special guest.
Yes, you guys. So I'm so excited to introduce our new friend, Courtney Williams. And I just want to tell you a little bit about her. But first, welcome, Courtney. We're so excited to have you on the podcast today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm so excited.
Yes. Well, you guys, a little bit about Courtney. She's a wife, mother, bonus mama, working mom, Christian blogger, and entrepreneur. She was a single mom of one and is now in a blended family of 5 kids living in Houston, Texas. She's a lifestyle influencer who loves sharing on all things blended family life, marriage, faith, motherhood, and so much more. And we're just so excited because we're going to get to hear a little bit about her and her story and just dive into some good topics.
Well, you're a busy woman.
Yes.
I'm just listening here and going, you're busy. But
Very
we would
good.
love to get to know you. So tell us a little bit about you, your story, your family, what you guys like to do. Just kind of give us a, big intro.
Yeah, well, I feel like you guys just covered a lot of it in my intro. But like you said, we are a big blended family of now 8. I don't know when I sent that bio if we had our youngest baby.
Oh,
We
Wow.
have a newest one. So now we are a big blended family of 8. We reside here in Houston, Texas. Me and my husband, we run our lifestyle brand full time, where we pride ourselves on just being a positive light in the blended family space,
Mhm.
yeah.
and showing that they can work and that they can be successful, and that we all deserve second chances. So, yeah, our days are filled with running around with our kids. We have 3 competitive dancers and
Wow.
all the things. So, nonstop over here, always super busy.
That's awesome.
We know that feeling.
Yes.
We have now graduated to taxi drivers. We're just kind of
Yes,
moving kids from one sporting event to the next. So we know that feeling.
Yeah.
Well,
yes, exactly.
it's a lot of changing that's going on in your life and that has gone on in your life. And I know a lot of our audience, that's just a mantra of what goes on. It's just constant changes.
Yeah.
So I want to just ask you, as you look back on your transition, as you've gone from a single mom
Mhm.
to now this very large blended family, kind of just walk us through kind of what was those transitions and how did you deal with those and how did you just navigate, whether that's spiritually navigate or
Mhm.
emotionally navigate or physically navigate.
Mhm.
It's just a lot of changes. So walk us through
Yeah.
kind of how you handled that.
Yeah, that was some big changes. Like I said, I had one daughter when I met my husband. She was a toddler at the time. He had one son who was also a toddler at the time. We were living in 2 different states. We met, things kind of took off. And there was a lot of adjustment in the beginning.
Yeah.
And we were kind of naive in the beginning. We thought, oh my gosh, this is perfect. We both have toddlers. Our kids are only 10 months apart. I had a daughter, he had a son. So we thought we were going to march off into the sunset as this, blended family. And we found out very quickly in those early stages that it was going to be a huge adjustment. It was going to take work. And I definitely had to lean on in the spiritual side. We say that the only thing keeping us going is Christ being the center of our family and leaning on
Mm,
Him, especially during those harder earlier years where we were adjusting. And then also, it just took a lot of maturity on both of our parts in that initial stage of realizing that this is going to take time, this is going to take work. So it just took a lot of personal growth, a lot of growing up, maturing, and I would say leaning on God during that time as well.
Yeah. And, I can imagine, coming from being a single mom to becoming an automatic bonus mom too, and the challenges and transitions and things with that. And so, Courtney, can you share a little bit about like what were some of the unexpected things that came along with that, and how did you handle those and overcome those challenges?
Yeah, I would say a lot of it had to do with the parenting piece.
Mm,
Because being a single mom, it was just me and my daughter. It was just us two.
mm,
And I had support from her other side of the family as well. But just that day to day, having that extra piece of parenting in there. And I think when you're a single mom, you have to kind of be strong. You feel like you have to be independent. And so now being married and trying not to operate in that room and in that space, that was a big adjustment. And then also having to let my guards down with accepting help with my child at the time too, which was also a big adjustment because I was very protective over her. And so that was something that kind of surprised me navigating that. And then also with my bonus son, as well, thinking, he's so young and he's practically going to grow up with me. I'm going to be like this
mm,
second mom to him. And then realizing, number one, he was still in the stranger danger phase. And so I still had to put in that work to build that trust and build that relationship with him. He was also living in a different state. And so I wasn't seeing him on a regular basis. So
mhm.
in the beginning, it almost felt like we were kind of starting over each time he was with us. And so I think those were some of the struggles in the beginning and just realizing, okay, Courtney, like it's going to take time. It's going to take work. It's going to take us being intentional and it's not going to happen overnight.
I think you said two things that I really kind of latched onto, but one of the things you said first was kind of this idea that you had, you were bringing independence into a marriage, and where
Mhm.
independence doesn't really belong.
mm,
You know,
Exactly.
so I think a lot of blended families struggle in this area of saying, well, you met an independent, let's just say, woman, and you fell in love with this independent woman, which we do. But when you start combining that in marriage, you learn very quickly that independence is not a recipe for successful marriage.
mhm.
And so
1000.
walk us through kind of how you, one, even just recognize that, hey, this is going to be something I need to work on. And how did you work on that? How did you more or less kind of shed the independence and go to a God-centered, really dependent marriage on each other and on God? How did you walk through that?
Yeah, I think a huge thing that helped was our community and our village and some of our mentors. We did premarital counseling at our church and we got connected with a couple that I think now has been married like 60 something years, who we really looked up to. And she kind of was my mentor and helped me through that. And really just leaning in on other like godly wives and godly marriages and different things like that because it is hard to break if that's a mindset that you've had and you feel like you've almost kind of been forced to have for a couple of
Mhm.
years that, you know, I have to take care of my child. I have to be the provider, the protector, and all of these things. But like you said, when you blend in the marriage, to just let that go was definitely a
Yeah.
process. So I think really just honing in on trying to learn how a godly marriage and a godly wife and how that operates. Because I also grew up in a single parent household, so I didn't even get to witness that on a day-to-day basis. So it was just a lot of unlearning and
Yeah.
then really just trying to walk daily in the way that a godly wife and a godly marriage is supposed to operate.
Well, I love that.
Good.
And I love that you said learn. I think a lot of people think that if it doesn't come natural, then it's not supposed to be. And I think learning about marriage is so important and learning how we operate in marriage. I just want to go real quickly to the second thing I pointed out because you used the word mature. I thought
Mm.
that was
I
kind of
thought that was
interesting.
really good
And I
too.
was
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
okay, I'm like, we're all adults here, but we can still mature.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so why did you use that word and maturing in your marriage? And what did that mean to you?
Yeah, I mean, I when we met, we were in our early to mid 20s. And yes,
Mhm.
we were adults, but I feel like it just takes a whole nother level of maturity to operate in a blended family. I mean, I even see people now my age in my mid 30s and they're struggling in blended families. And I just feel like a lot of it really just boils down to maturity. Like, hey, how can we all come together, work together, and keep these kids at the forefront of, what's important and not our own feelings, our
Yeah.
bitterness, and different things like that. So I think it really takes a level of putting your pride, your own self-centeredness aside and being like, let us be the mature adults in this situation. The kids didn't ask to be in these situations. They're kind of
Yeah.
just put in those. And so we have to be the ones that will step up to the plate, and just mature. And I feel like becoming a mom in a situation that wasn't ideal, wasn't how I saw my motherhood journey kicking off, kind of forced me to grow up overnight.
Yeah.
And so that was just always my thought process with it. Like, okay, I have to really like grow up now and just step up to the plate for my child.
It's so
Yeah.
good. Well, and you had said something too, Courtney, about being, I know we have a lot of stepmoms and bonus moms that listen to the podcast, and I'm not a bonus mom. And so, when you were talking about how every time since your bonus son lived out of state, and like every time it was like having to reestablish that relationship and kind of start over, I can imagine that it feels like that a lot of times for a lot of these bonus moms when you're first blending, and maybe they're at the biological mom's house, and you're getting them not as often as you would like. And so that can be a hard relationship to start establishing and building that trust and bonding. And so what advice or encouragement would you give mothers who are about to blend or have just blended and are becoming those bonus moms, and maybe in the same situation like you were? Is there any like practical and spiritual advice that you would give them or encouragement?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the first thing that comes to mind is you just have to be intentional with building that relationship. Like I mentioned, I was kind of naive and I just thought, it was going to happen. And I realized very quickly that I had to be intentional with putting in the work and the effort to build that bond and that relationship with my bonus son. So it could be simple things like spending time with him just one on one, talking to him, getting to know him, asking questions, going out and doing things with him, um, just so that he sees that I'm trying and that I'm putting in that effort, and that we're just building a genuine relationship and connection. And then I always try to approach it where I wasn't trying to play mom, but just being that second person in his life to support him, and his mom and my husband, just being another person in his life to, be along that journey of raising him and supporting him along him growing up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's good. We always talk about the three P's: the
Yeah.
prayer, patience, and persistence. Like when you're
Yeah.
in that process of being a step parent, just being prayerful over the relationship, patient in the process, and persistent. Like when you were talking about the intentionality, just being consistent and persistent in pursuit of that relationship.
Yeah, and I love that prayer too, because that's one of the things that I prayed over every single year was like, Lord, help me look at him out of the same eyes that I look at my own child.
Mm.
And it doesn't always come natural. And I feel like that's okay to admit
Yeah.
that is something that you really, really have to like work on and pray about as well, because there has to be a supernatural intervention as well for that to take place, for someone to look at another child out of the same eyes that they look at their own biological children as well.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, that takes time. I mean, I'm a step parent, so it there's two things I'm kind of like landing on during our podcast. I keep going back to the word maturing, and I started thinking about it, and I thought, I think normal people think about it in terms of, well, I'm growing up, and when I'm grown, I'm done maturing. And I
Right.
think if we looked at blended families and said this is a new birth of a new family, and it's a part of your journey is maturing in that family and maturing as a step parent or even as a biological parent in your new marriage. But part of that maturing process is discernment. It's learning what to say, what not to say,
Mhm.
understanding expectations and maybe not putting, false expectations. I know a lot of step parents, they have a sense of false expectation of what's going to happen. And when that expectation doesn't get met, meet, met, when it doesn't get met, then we have a sense of disappointment. And then we put that disappointment on the kids or our spouse because our expectations were not met. And another one of our sayings that we use all the time is, unspoken expectations are just premeditated resentments. So
Absolutely.
part of maturing is being able to communicate that and then also being able to navigate the challenges that come with being a step parent. So I love that you brought that into this mix. I think a lot of our audience thinks that this should come natural to them or it should just click like a light switch. And if it's not clicking, then it's not meant to be, which is
Right.
why we see so many issues in blended families. So I love that you put an expectation on people like, no, you have to mature. You have to
Right.
you have to set this and go, okay, this is going to be a process and a journey.
Yeah,
So
Right.
so good.
I love that. As a step parent, and I know a lot of step parents listen to our podcast, as Vanessa said, what do you think if you had to name your top two, like, let's go to the good side of this. We talked about the challenges. I want to go to the good side. You've been doing this a while, you're in this. What are the things that people can expect that are really good?
Mhm. It's good.
Yeah, I mean, what we always tell people is it can work. It can work. It doesn't have, I know blended families get a bad rep of being toxic, or people are just
Mhm.
like, that's just not going to work. You have a higher divorce rate. All you hear all the negative. And
Yeah.
so one of the things we really, really pride ourselves on is it can work. And these kids can grow up with just double the love from both sides of the families that they're dealing with. And I think it just really shows God's redemption, and God gets the glory out of our families. And what better outcome can you want than that, than God getting the glory and showing people that we all deserve second chances. We all can still have our happily ever after, whatever that looks like for everyone else. And so just the fact that you can still thrive, you can still have the life that you've always wanted, the family that you've always wanted, the marriage that you wanted. I think it's a really positive outcome of our family and blended families as well.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that. It's so
Well,
good.
you brought this up, and I'll bring up a counter statistic. Everybody looks at statistics and they say, "Oh gosh, it's going to be so hard." The one that we love, one of our dear friends, Pastor Jimmy Evans, says, "If you do marriage God's way, you have a 100% chance of success."
Mhm.
This is not, you're not going to fail if you do it this way.
Mm.
And I
Right,
think that people look at this and go, "How can I do this?" Well, there's a roadmap that says
Yeah.
absolutely you can. And I think more people, if they understood that this can be so good and it can be
Yeah.
such a blessing, and God gives us a roadmap that says this is how we do it. And if we
right,
do it that way, there's no chance of failure.
Yeah.
right,
No, it's so
absolutely.
good.
I
Yeah.
love that.
Well, Courtney, we're coming to the end of our time and it's been so good. But we always ask this staple question to all of our podcast guests, and it's the name of our ministry is Blended Kingdom Families, but what is a blended kingdom family to you?
It's just a family that is operating with Christ at the center of their family. No matter what your family looks like, Christ is the glue that holds you together, is leading your family. And his light just shines through your family. And you see that in so many different ways, from your marriage, from your kids, from your ministry, from just how he's expanding your territory. Um, And that's what a blended kingdom family looks like for me.
I
Oh,
love
I
that.
love that. Well, Courtney, we want everyone to be able to find you, where you and your husband give the encouragement for blended families. So tell our audience where they can find you at.
Yeah, so I'm on all the social platforms that you can think of, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, all of those, YouTube. My handle is the same throughout all of them. It's Court and Williams. So you can find me on all those platforms. And then my website is CourtneyandWilliams.com.
Awesome. Well, Courtney, thank you so much for being a part of the podcast. I know that this has had to encourage some
Yeah.
people that are listening. It's been an encouragement to me, and we're just so thankful for you and for you to be here today.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Keep out getting out there,
Yeah.
trailblazing, doing your thing. We love this. We
Yeah.
love partnering with more people who are doing blended family ministry, reaching more families, touching more people. So we just encourage you, keep doing it,
Yeah.
keep loving your family, and it's going to be absolutely amazing.
Yes. Thank you,
Yes,
Courtney.
absolutely. And thanks for all y'all do. It's so, so needed. So needed. So thanks for all you do and thanks for having me.
And you're in
Thank
Houston,
you.
so we're in Dallas. So that
Yes.
means eventually we'll
Oh,
have to
okay.
come together
Yes.
and make sure that we can have a friendship in person.
Yes.
Oh, absolutely. We visit Dallas all the time. My mother-in-law lives there.
Awesome.
Love that.
Yeah.
Love that. Well, thank you so much. And guys, thank y'all so much for tuning into the podcast today. We hope this has encouraged you. We want you to go seek out Courtney, find her ministry, let her encourage you as well. We are thankful for your time today. And if you haven't already, make sure to give this podcast a like, a comment, a review. You can also email us at info@blendedkingdomfamilies.com. We would love to have your feedback. You guys take care and have a wonderful, wonderful day.
Be blessed in all that you do. Hey friends, so glad you were here with us today, and I hope you enjoyed today's episode. You can find more resources from Blended Kingdom Families at blendedkingdomfamilies.com. Join us again next time as we talk about more blended family topics. Be blessed in all that you do, and remember, nothing will be impossible with God.